This is the Chapter 2 review for the Chapter 2 test in Physics 1, and I'm going to start this section right now with questions 10 and 11, and I'll just do them progressively, but I'm going to start with number 10. So, Chapter 2 review, number 10. Okay, we're driving through town at 15 meters per second. So our initial velocity is 15 meters per second. And suddenly a ball rolls out in front of you. So you apply the brakes and begin decelerating at 4.5 meters per second. So the acceleration is negative 4.5 meters per second squared. And if we come to a complete stop, which it asks us in part A, that means the final velocity is going to be 0 meters per second. So A asks us, A is right here, what is the distance, or how far do we travel? What's the displacement that we must undergo before we stop in front of this ball? Well, we have our initial velocity, we have our final velocity, we have our acceleration, and all we need to do is solve for x, and we have an equation for that. That is our displacement equals, oh, I'm sorry, it's not in terms of displacement, is it? This is equation 5 I'm going to be looking at. This is going to be VF, our final velocity squared, equals initial velocity squared plus 2 times A times a change in x. I'm going to solve for x, so I'm going to move the VI squared over to the left-hand side, so it'll be VF squared minus VI squared. And then I'm going to divide both sides by 2a, divided by 2a, 2 times the acceleration, and that will solve for our change in our displacement. So that equals, there's our final velocity squared, 0 squared, well that's easy, I should have written 0 meters per second, the quantity squared, minus our initial velocity, which is 15 meters per second squared, over 2 times negative 4.5 meters per second squared. And it should be noted that that this numerator right here, it's 0 meters per second squared minus 15 meters per second, the quantity squared. So whatever this square quantity is, it's going to be minus that. So that will wind up being 0, that's easy, minus 225 meters per second. Actually, I can just keep the units out for now. I don't want to square units because they'll all eventually go away. But minus 225 over 2 times negative 4.5, which is negative 9. And that should give us an answer of 25 meters. So that's our change in displacement. It's 25 meters. That's how far we go before we stop.